Hey guys, going to be showing a top 4 deck profile from the Tuscaloosa Regional. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Grissom, and I got top 4 at the Tuscaloosa Regional playing Brandon Despia.
It was a 60 card build, right?
Yep.
Nice. Let's go and get into it.
The obvious ones, standard ones: 3 Aluber, 3 Albaz, 3 Albion, 3 Cartesia, 2 Quim, and 2 McCurrier. This stuff is kind of not as standard. This build is practically 1-for-1 the same build as Yuri Diaz's build, the one that topped the YCS. The only difference is like maybe a couple cards on the side. So shout outs to him mainly, because this is just he's the one that cooked this. So but the 2 McCurrier was really good. It helped out a lot when we had the Allure Darkness or the rated openings. 1 kit for our High Spirits combo, 1 Tragedy, and the ad-lib was fantastic. It allowed us to triple Mirror Jade on turn pretty consistently. It allowed us to OTK with red and red. The 60 card build, this card is fantastic in. I wouldn't play this in like a 45 card build.
Okay.
And then the package for the Lost, and then finally Puppet, because you got to play it.
Puppet lock.
Yeah, the deck isn't like completely carried by Puppet. It is still really good without it. However, it is nice to just be able to safely half crack boards, especially in the Snake Eyes matchups, and then just lock them and then kill them on the turn, on the crackback turn. So, but you got to play it. It's not a win, right? For spells, I got the God card, Brandon Fusion. Some of these guys wanted me to talk 2 minutes, 3 minutes about why this card's good, but I'm not going to. You guys already know.
Well, I actually don't know why the card's good.
Yeah, right. 3 Brandon opening. This card's crazy. My favorite part about this card is just being able to discard cards, because there's a lot of stuff that you just want out of your hand in your grave, and then you can just start comboing harder. The 2 Brandon red, this is mainly because we play Pot of Desires for draw consistency. The 2 reds came up every now and then. Usually you can just loop this with Tragedy or with Retribution, so it's rare that you really need more than 1, but this is just for the Desires.
Is Desires the main reason why this deck's at 60?
I believe so. I mean, otherwise you could just cut it down to a 50 card build and it'll probably run pretty efficiently. Desires really wasn't too crazy for me all weekend. A lot of times my hands were just literally just back cracked going into any of my matchups. 3 deployment, that's standard. 3 thrust, that's standard. Droplets is hands down the best board breaker in the main deck. This card just solo cracks boards with just 1 Aluber. The Super Poly, this was the only card that I was considering changing for the main deck from the guys' list. I didn't like that I needed to kind of work around other people's decks and only be able to target their light and darks, because in the extra deck we don't run the Super Poly package, so it's rare that this card actually comes up and is really impactful. But
Did you side it out every game?
I did side it out quite a few times, unless it was a lighter dark matchup. But I did play against quite a bit of Snake Eyes and Tenpai, and Super Poly. I mainly ended up just discarding it because I just had better stuff like Droplet or Opening or something like that.
Gotcha.
The other alternative that I was going to run instead, I think in the main, whatever. I can't quite remember what I was going to swap this out for, but yeah, I can't remember. But I guess it was okay. Every now and then it was really good.
Yeah.
But very rare circumstances. Talents was fantastic, especially at 2. I don't want to brick on it, especially with 3 thrusts. Nothing's worse than just having an Aluber, thrust, and talents, and then like cards you want to discard, and you just drop Aluber and the impermanent, and then like your turn just gets turned off. So I like it too. Drew it just enough when I needed to see it, or I thrust into it if I really wanted to see it. 3 Desires and 3 Allure. This is kind of just the draw package. It just helps us dig through the deck. The more cards we have, the better. We have a lot of discard effects, so being able to just have better options of discarding is nice. Actually, I don't think I saw Allure a single time throughout the entire regional. So the Desires I saw a lot, and usually I ended up using it at the very end after I've already like comboed and I pulled all the 1-ofs out of the deck, and then Desires is just like a draw 2, and sometimes you draw into Droplet or you draw into an extra Brandon in red, so now you can set some of the traps.
Were there times where you wish you had saw Allure instead of Desires?
I mean,
So like I don't know if one has one impact over the other.
yeah, no, like normally, if I ever had like a dark that I wanted to get rid of, I had like opening. I think maybe I did have Allure a couple times, but I had like nothing but spells, and so I didn't, and I had like a dark I didn't want to get rid of. So I just ended up just trying to play into their board or play into their hand traps, and then ultimately just discard the Allure, because after things started to resolve, I just didn't care and just dropped it. Maintenance. High Spirits. This card is crazy. Just to give a little bit of secret goo to everybody who doesn't play Branded, if they search this out, like you might as well ash this too, because this is practically just Branded Fusion 2.0.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it still ends on Puppet Lock, so this card's nuts. Especially as a 1-of. We don't want to be hard drawing it. We don't want to be running a bunch of dragons, unless it becomes a light and dark format where you can run multiple Souvenirs or multiple like of the Bestials. Without that, like just as a 1-of for whenever you see Albion or Serenia or Fallen Above Us. Loss, it just auto wins games. And then more consistency cards, Foolish and Gold Sark, and then Call By. And then biggest shout out to Yuri Diaz. He said to play 3 Fusion Duplication. This card was nuts. It felt so good to just rip a card out of their hand like Branded Fusion and they respond to it, and then just being able to just safely set this and end on like a Cartesia and pass, and you just still lock them. Like this card was cracked. Being able to hard draw it all the time and then like be able to thrust for something else that you just wanted, just additional interruption. I loved it. I cited a lot out when I was going second, but any of the game ones, like this card is crazy. So definitely suggest playing this at 3 if you're playing a 60 card build.
Hell yeah.
This card was also insane too. I couldn't believe how many times this card came up where I would have like Puppet Lock on board, and the only thing that could stop me would be like droplets, and this just checked droplets because they never could send any traps. And Branded Banishment, this actually came up quite a few times, and being able to get more Mirror Jade banishes. So the first match and the only match that I actually lost was against Pure Snake Eyes, and I actually Mirror Jaded them for 4 times. I probably chose really bad spots to Mirror Jade, but I just felt like if I could just consistently get all of the bodies off the board, then he wouldn't be able to recover, but he still extended through and was able to win. Shout out to him. He was a crazy good player. I think he ended up topping 2. But I could just rack it up to also just like first round nerves and just starting off the event. Usually I start off the event and I usually lose my first game. So, and then finally Retribution. And that's the main deck.
Nice.
Alright, so extra deck. This I think is about as tight as it can get. I don't think that this should change unless for some reason Super Play comes back in the meta as being just an insane card. Double Mirror Jade, double Albion, one Lavelian. This is standard. Double Granganule. You gotta play 2 now. It just helps make the Puppet Lock. And it's kind of like a discrete Puppet Lock where you use the first Granganule to like send Titaniclad and set up your board, and then your Quim will bring back your Cartesia, and you make the second Granganol to send the puppet. And usually by that time you're under lost, and then they can't respond, and you just go off from there. So you got to play this at 2. Titaniclad for the Quim, Sanctifier because it's the lock card.
Yeah.
Renbrum just adds an extra interruption with our Mirror Jade, being able to just fuse into a second Mirror Jade. Dragostapelia, I don't think I came up into it very often, but I do know that it's pretty important, and there is some certain board states where you want a Cartesia effect and just like fuse your Mirror Jade off in like a Luber to make this, and then like Quim bring back Mirror Jade. But that you're usually already in a winning position, so it didn't come up as often. And then the final branded card, Alvalinitas. This card was great. I played against I played against the Tempai list, and game 1, like I figured he was on Tempai because he made me go first.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up setting up like Alvaz Engrave to make Alvalinitas. Luckily, he misplayed. He was under Prosperity, and then he made the Vident Dragon a second time and thought its effect wasn't worth the turn. Luckily, because of that, he missed lethal, and then I was able to crack back, and then I just kind of like half cracked the board and puppet locked him, and then we went to game 2. But then after that, coming up into the game 2, I had this set up, but I didn't need it because double droplet against Tempai just kind of solos the deck. So I didn't need it, but it was there. Other than that, just being able to search any of the fusions during the end phase, like the fusion duplication, fusion deployment, or the branded fusion. That's my favorite part about the card. Warlord, Furious Dragon. This came up a couple times with getting lethal. I did play against Runic Stun, and then this card was able to just keep Runic Stun in check. But the trap, man, the trap solos Runic Stun. Like it makes the matchup so easy. The first game against my Runic Stun player, like I didn't get to this in time, and I wasn't able to get lethal before he decked me out. And then after that, like I just cycled this and had evenly, and it was easy clap from there. Quertus, because you need it for the Granganol. It allows you to OTK through boards.
Yeah.
And then finally the Big Bad Guardian Chimera.
How often did you summon the Chimera?
Oh, a lot. If I felt that like the puppet lock was going to be kind of long-winded and took a while to like set up, like if I was needed them to summon from the extra deck in order to get Quim to bring back Cartesia, and then Cartesia make Granganol to send the puppet, like if I felt like that was just too much, and I couldn't rely on my opponent just like playing into that, a lot of the times I just set up like ad lib and just like almost like the old school branded combos where you would just have like Mirror Jade like 2-3 times a turn, and then on the crack back like break the rest of their board, and if I miss lethal, then lock them. So Guardian came out a lot. And then finally the side deck. This stuff there was only like 2 card difference from Diaz's list. So the Masquerade.
Is that a time card?
Yeah, it didn't come up in most games. They were just over too quick. Either the board breakers just cracked the board and I just had so much advantage, my opponent was just scooped, or puppet lock just ended games really fast.
Yeah.
The rest of like the big board breakers, the 3 evenly match, I drew this probably, if I had to just pull a number out of thin air, 70% of my games, sliding into game 2 and 3. This card solo carried so much of the tournament for me, and I was just blown away being able to see it so many times in a 60 card build. But with the draw options and stuff, like you were able to dig into it for a little bit. Dark a little more. There was only a couple times that I put this in, and it was in the pure Snake Eyes matchups. It was just to have another like 1 card that just helps crack the board. I didn't ever see it. Usually I saw it evenly and evenly checked it out. Daruma Karma Cannon. This is straight from Diaz's list. I put it in against Tempai. It didn't come up. So I don't know if I would keep it again.
Did the Karma Cannon throw people off whenever you saw it?
And I'd never, if I had the option to like thrust and set, I didn't want to put this. I just wanted to put this down instead. So
Oh yeah.
They never.
T-Barrier does hurt a lot more in this meta, so.
Yeah. TC Boo, I sided this. It came up one time against the pure Snake Eyes list, and then I realized that this isn't very good against Snake Eyes. They just play right around it.
Yeah.
And so that was my mistake. Again, that was game one, round one. Just the nerves got to me, I guess. Twin Twister. This came up against Runic Stun, and it came up against my final round against Labyrinth. So it was nice to draw into it.
It's not a thrust target, so why you only play one?
It's just a quick play. I don't want to use Cosmic because there's a lot of cards I want to get discarded out of the hand, and this facilitates that, and is also able to check an additional card on the field. So it's just a discard mainly. I still have back row removal. Shaddoll Dragon, this card's fantastic. It should be in every branded list side deck. A lot of the Snake Eyes decks are siding skill drain, and so this just solo checks the skill drain, and then you finish cracking the board. The two Bestials, just for branded matchup, for voiceless, random light and dark decks. I don't think I saw these. I can't think of any like specific moment that I thought was just like really, really like, thank God I have a Bestial, but when I put them in, like, they would have mattered if I drew them. And then the final card was just Herald of the Abyss. Diaz wasn't playing this. I put it in there because I was fearful of Pearly. I didn't have an out to Pearly, and going into a regional, like knowing that I can play into just like random rogue decks, I didn't want to go into like Raid Raptors and just lose because I didn't have any answer.
Right.
So that's all it was. All right.
Nice. So you record was 6-1?
Yeah, 6-1. Lost first round and then just won out from there.
Nice. What were all the matchup? Well, like, what was the hardest matchup you had?
The Tempai matchup I should have lost, hands down. Like, if he lethaled me game one, game two I probably would have won, and then game three it just would have been a much more difficult game state. But because he missed lethal, and then we could go into game two, and I lost, and then I get to go first game three. So that was probably the scariest one where I was like, I lose, I'm not continuing further from here. But luckily that mistake, I was able to capitalize on it and pull out the win.
Oh, hell yeah. Congratulations on top 4.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the deck profile.
Yeah.
Any shout-outs?
Shout-outs, 100% shout-outs to TBS Comics, especially Anna over there. Anna, wave at the camera.
She asked not to be recorded.
Oh, okay. Never mind. We can edit that out. Yeah. But TBX Comics in Fort Walton Beach and Pensacola, both of these shops have a ton of people that are just really nice and really cool to play with. A lot of really good players. I feel like this area of the U.S. is just kind of stacked with just like high-end players. And so shout us all down. Shout out to people that I've been testing with and playing with. And just hopefully we can ride this high through nationals.
Hell yeah. Well, congratulations again, and good luck at Nats.
Thanks.